1 week ago in Orlando, Florida, the 2026 Orlando Pokemon Go Regional Championships were held. The level of competition at this event was incredible, and we saw arguably the best grand finals I have ever seen. Now, at this point, we're all well aware of the massive controversy that has plagued the results of the Orlando Regional Championships. While we still wait for resolution on that issue, I was ready to just fully cancel this video. But after chatting with Firestar, he requested that I make a more sliced video on his tournament run, especially the grand finals, just to showcase how insane those games were. So, to honor Firestar's wishes, here is his run in the grand finals at the Orlando Regionals. Now, Firestar's team consists of the following: Mudshot Diggersby, Bugbite Shadow Fortress, Licky, Shadow Malamar, Empoleon, and Togekiss. Now, he has never made it to a grand finals before, and across the table from him is Nighttime Clasher. Nighttime Clasher is the reigning Latin American International Champion, so he is no stranger to shining when the lights are brightest. Nighttime Clasher's team for this tournament consists of Quagsire, Licky, Alolan Ninetales, Corviknight, Shadow Fortress, and Grumpig. Nighttime Clasher comes into the grand finals from the winner's side of the bracket, meaning he only needs to win one best of 5 to be crowned champion. Firestar will have to win 2 best of 5s, the first best of 5 and a bracket reset. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's a strong lead for Firestar, leading Shadow Fortress into Alolan Ninetales. Now, Nighttime Clasher is running a team that is very soft to Bugbite Fortress because, well, his entire team outside of Corviknight is soft to Bugbite Fortress. He lands the Dazzling Gleam, that connects for some solid damage, and he's going to be safe switching into the Shadow Quagsire. Quagsire does have a resistance to Rock Tomb, so this forces Firestar to instead go for the Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb is going to be debuffing the Quagsire. These Bug Bites are absolutely shredding, and Firestar is more than happy to invest in this fortress, because he's looking just to try and win switch advantage and align that Alolan Ninetales onto his Empoleon in the endgame. Nighttime Clasher reaches for the Aqua Tail, but Firestar fires off the Sand Tomb 1 turn prior. Nighttime Clasher puts up the shield. He's trying to make a play for switch, but Firestar can double shield, fully farm down, and this is going to be a very tough game for Nighttime Clasher to win. Firestar ran ABA strong to the Alolan Ninetales. Nighttime Clasher pivots it in, and Alolan Ninetales hits a brick wall named Empoleon. These metal sounds are shredding through the Ninetales. Ninetales fires off a last-second Dazzling Gleam, but that's not a problem for Empoleon. Empoleon gets the full metal sound down, exiting with the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, and this game is over. All Nighttime Clasher has in the back for healthy Pokemon is Corviknight, and Corviknight is really not going to be able to do anything against Diggersby. Diggersby is one of the best Corviknight answers in the entire game. Nighttime Clasher sends in Quagsire to absorb energy. Corviknight is revealed as the final Pokemon, and this game is over. Firestar at the back-to-back Hydro Cannons. Nighttime Clasher puts up the shield, but the moment he sees that Diggersby, he knows that this game is over. Empoleon gets the fire off Hydro Cannon number 2. No Protect Shields left now for Nighttime Clasher. This is guaranteed to land. Now, Firestar going to try not to show the Diggersby if at all possible, but he will have to show it because Nighttime Clasher will fire off the payback, knocking out the Empoleon. Nighttime Clasher has known this game is over for a while, but he just wants information on what that final Pokemon is. Firestar trying to hide what the final Pokemon is, sending in the fortress. The Air Cutter is going to secure the knockout here, and he's going to have to reveal it was Diggersby in the back. So Nighttime Clasher does get a little bit of information on what Firestar ran for game number 1, but it's going to be Firestar emerging victorious as he gets the first of 3 wins needed to reset the bracket. The battle is locked in for game number 2, and it's a perfect mirror lead, Bugbite Fortress into Bugbite Fortress. Firestar opts out, safe switching into Togekiss. Nighttime Clasher responds with Licky, but this Togekiss up energy is a huge problem for Nighttime Clasher. Togekiss has access to super effective Aura Sphere, which is going to inflict devastating damage onto Licky. Aura Sphere will be shielded. Nighttime Clasher farms up and fires off Shadow Ball. Firestar now has to decide, is he going for the bait? Is he going for the nuke? Firestar no shields. Shadow Ball connects, but fails to take the knockout. That's big for Firestar, who now gets to make a second Aura Sphere. Nighttime Clasher is going to no shield, but Licky will pay a very heavy price. Licky should get a full farm down, exiting with quite a lot of energy. Now Firestar gets to send in Diggersby. Diggersby is one of the hardest checks to Licky in the entire game. Licky can throw Body Slam after Body Slam, and Diggersby will just simply not care. For Firestar, this is a great trade, as Firestar doesn't lose a lot of HP, but will get a massive energy head start. And for Nighttime Clasher, he doesn't really want to give up switch advantage. He will make it to a 3rd Body Slam, but Firestar is very happy to exchange HP for energy, because that energy will be critical to winning this game. Nighttime Clasher's Licky finally gets farmed down. In comes Quagsire, and Quagsire will instantly be met with the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands will inflict some pretty sizable damage. Does either trainer go for the switch? It's nighttime. He sends in Fortress. Firestar could have stayed in to fire off a Fire Punch, but instead just mirrors with his own. Nighttime Clasher farms up to the Rock Tomb, baits with the Sand Tomb, and Firestar with a Stone Cold Bait Call. He reads it perfectly, no shielding, and now he still has 2 Protect Shields to hide behind. He farms up to the Rock Tomb, he's baiting with the Sand Tomb. Does Nighttime Clasher put up the shield? He does, and Firestar is getting all the calls right in this game number 2. Firestar reaching for the Sand Tomb, he's gonna get there, and that is catastrophic for Nighttime Clasher. Nighttime Clasher is just simply gonna take far too much damage. Sand Tomb lands, it takes the knockout, in comes Quagsire. Quagsire gets the farm down, but the damage is done. There's 2 Protect Shields for Diggersby to hide behind. There is no way out for Nighttime Clasher. Scorching Sands should just about take the knockout here. Scorching Sands lands, Quagsire gets Mudshot down. Firestar is up 2 games to 0. The battlers lock in for game number 3, and it's a very neutral lead, Licky into Corviknight. However, this neutral lead is actually a very good lead for Firestar, because if the Corviknight is not on the Bugbite Fortress, then Firestar is at a team comp advantage. Nighttime Clasher has Quagsire and Grumpig in the back, the first time that he's brought Grumpig in this series. Grumpig would be catastrophic if it got aligned onto the Bugbite Fortress, but if it can avoid that matchup, it actually looks quite strong here. Shadow Ball is going to land, Nighttime Clasher save switches into the Quagsire, and Quagsire will immediately be met with a Body Slam from the Licky. Nighttime Clasher is hoping this baits out the Bugbite Fortress. Firestar sends in the Fortress, and this plays right into Nighttime Clasher's plans. Nighttime Clasher farms up to the back-to-back Aqua Tails, really looking to try and ramp up the pressure on the Bugbite Fortress. Aqua Tail number 1 is going to crash into the Fortress. Nighttime Clasher has another one loaded. Firestar didn't quite have the Sand Tomb available, so Firestar will be putting up the shield. Firestar would love to try and get a Bugbite down here. Switch Timer not up for Nighttime Clasher. Can he get the farm down? Yes, he can, and he exits with quite a lot of energy. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight will take some pretty substantial damage from the Rock Tomb, but importantly, it will not be enough to secure the knockout. Rock Tomb lands, Switch Timer not quite up for Firestar. He's unable to save the Fortress, and now Fortress will be hit with the Air Cutter. Debuffed Air Cutter will not take the knockout, but it will put the Fortress very, very low. Will Firestar try and go for the snipe? He does. He sends in the Diggersby, and that's going to be instantly answered with the Grumpig. Grumpig down a little bit of energy, but up a shield, and this is a very favorable endgame scenario for the Grumpig. Grumpig would love to not get debuffed. It does not, and now Grumpig's Psy Waves are chunking through the Diggersby, and Dynamic Punch is going to hit for devastating, super effective damage. Firestar shaking his head. He knows he's in trouble. Dynamic Punch lands. That is monster damage. Nighttime Clasher is basically going to have to try and 1v3 with the Grumpig. He still is the Corviknight, but the Corviknight is basically 1 HP. Scorching Sands is going to connect. This now means that Firestar could probably just fire off Fire Punch, but before he gets there, Nighttime Clasher will go for Dynamic Punch and deny that energy. Firestar does still have a charge attack loaded on the Fortress, but he has no energy on Licky. He's going to bring in the Fortress, fire off the Sand Tomb. Nighttime Clasher knows he's going to have to no shield. Sand Tomb lands, applying a debuff, simultaneous switch, Corviknight into the Licky, and Corviknight barely withstands the rollouts to make the Air Cutter. That is disastrous for Firestar. Air Cutter is going to connect. Corviknight gets the boost. Licky gets the farm down, but now Nighttime Clasher should be able to Psy-Wave everything down. And Firestar knows it. He's just committing to fast move pressure. He sends in the Fortress, Grumpig farms down, and Nighttime Clasher wins game number 3. The battlers lock in for game number 4, and it's a dominant lead win for Firestar. Diggersby into Shadow Fortress. Nighttime Clasher ran an ABA line, and he's getting punished as Diggersby is on the lead. Nighttime Clasher makes a catch. He's able to save that Fortress and catch out of the Corviknight, but Corviknight has a truly terrible matchup here as well. So Firestar could be incentivized to stay in, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He stays in, goes for the Fire Punch. Corviknight can survive this damage, but Corviknight is very rapidly losing all of its health bar. There's going to be a pivot out, saving the Diggersby, and in comes Licky. Licky will have to take a payback. Switch Timer will be coming up soon for Nighttime Clasher. It looks like after one more charge attack, he will be able to exit the matchup. Firestar going to look to overfarm, fire off the Shadow Ball, and ensure the knockout unless Nighttime Clasher puts up the shield. But Nighttime Clasher has other ideas. He's shielding up, he's saving the energy, he's pivoting back into the Fortress. Knowing that Firestar has a Diggersby, Nighttime Clasher can never afford to shield this Fortress, because the Diggersby is very close to a Fire Punch. So Nighttime Clasher is forced to no shield, taking big damage from Shadow Ball, but Shadow Ball would do less than a Fire Punch. Timer's up for Firestar, in comes the Diggersby, and Nighttime Clasher will begin to frantically spam out Sand Tombs. Sand Tomb is going to be no shielded, that really does not do much. Sand Tomb number 2, another no shield from Firestar. Nighttime Clasher desperately trying to burn his timer so he can pivot out and save this Fortress. But unfortunately, the switch timer does not come up. Fire Punch is reached by Diggersby, and Nighttime Clasher is forced to let the Fortress go. However, against all odds, Nighttime Clasher actually has Firestar exactly where he wants him. Nighttime Clasher, even though he's down a shield, even though he has to take a fire punch on the Alolan Ninetales, he's going to have a big energy head start on the Ninetales, and he saved a ton of energy on the Corviknight as well. So even though he is down a shield in this endgame, he is still in a pretty good spot, because Firestar has basically no fast move pressure available into either of his remaining Pokemon. He's able to Weather Ball bait as well, gonna try and reach for the Dazzling Gleam, but can't quite get there. Firestar gonna go for a Sand Tomb, not even building up to the Rock Tomb. Nighttime Clasher knows it, so he's gonna be no shielding. Nighttime Clasher now gonna go for the Dazzling Gleam. No shield comes out from Firestar, but this is where the energy saved on Corviknight is gonna be critical for Nighttime Clasher. In comes Corviknight, firing off the Air Cutter. Firestar, is he gonna put up the shield? If he doesn't, he could risk getting farmed down. He shields up the Air Cutter. Nighttime Clasher gets the Air Cutter boost. Corviknight farms past the Air Cutter, but Firestar gets the catch anyway. Nighttime Clasher trying to avoid the catch, but Firestar was stone cold. He gets the catch. Back in comes Fortress. Fortress double resistant bug bites down, exiting with a ton of energy. Back in comes the Ninetales. Firestar gonna look for farm. He fires off the Sand Tomb, trying to lower the defense of the Ninetales. Can Ninetales make it to the Weather Ball? It cannot, and Firestar takes the series 3-1, and we move on to one final best of 5. The battlers lock in for game number 1 of the bracket reset, and it's a dominant lead win for Firestar. Diggersby into Corviknight. Nighttime Clasher tries for a Fire Punch catch on a Quagsire, but Firestar is too patient. Firestar instead launches Scorching Sands. Nighttime Clasher puts up the shield. He wants to keep Quagsire healthy because he knows he has to bait out the Shadow Fortress. The only game the Nighttime Clasher won in the first best of 5 was the game where he brought Grumpig. So he is trying to follow the same strategy. Bait out the Bug Bite Fortress, and then, once it's baited out and removed from the field of play, then Grumpig will be able to sweep. Firestar fires off the Sand Tomb, instant no shield from Nighttime Clasher. He's already shielded once, he is not looking to shield again. But Firestar looking to match shields. If Firestar tries to farm down, Nighttime Clasher can probably make a third Aqua Tail. It's gonna be close, but the Quagsire survives! 1 HP remaining, making the last second Aqua Tail. Not getting the farm down is not what Firestar was hoping for. Now Firestar has lost switch advantage. In comes Empoleon, but Empoleon's gonna have to deal with the Corviknight that already had a payback loaded. Instant shield from Firestar. He calls out the full send from Nighttime Clasher, but the Grumpig in the back at this point is basically looking unbeatable. Corviknight farming up, getting ever closer to that payback. Empoleon, oh my goodness, saves the energy. What a catch by Firestar. He's able to save that Empoleon and catch the payback onto the Diggersby. The bad news for Firestar, however, is by taking that payback's worth of damage on Diggersby, he is now in Dynamic Punch range, and this Grumpig is looking to sweep. Grumpig can shake off back-to-back Scorching Sands, farm up to the double-up, back-to-back Dynamic Punches, and this game will be over. Firestar's Switch Clock is just simply not going to be up in time. That would be his only chance at a win con if his timer came up and he could snipe with the Empoleon Hydro Cannons, but he's not going to get the chance. The timer is close to up, but it's a few seconds short, and Firestar knows it. He has back-to-back Hydro Cannons on Empoleon, but Grumpig has a shield. So even though Empoleon wins charge attack priority, it just simply does not matter. Firestar doesn't even hit all the bubbles because he knows this game is over. Hydro Cannon is shielded. There's the Dynamic Punch, and Empoleon has an incredible typing, but it does not have great stats. Dynamic Punch, super effective damage, KOs Empoleon, and that's a game 1 win for Nighttime Clasher. Battle is locked in for game number 2, but it's a disastrous lead for Firestar, Diggersby, and the Grumpig. Firestar is ABA weak to the Grumpig. Both Diggersby and Togekiss have losing matchups. He safe switches in his only answer, which is the Shadow Bug Bite Fortress, just to be hard-walled by Corviknight. Nighttime Clasher does not want to get debuffed, so he's just going to fire off the Air Cutter to get a little bit of chip damage before that Rock Tomb debuff comes through. But this game looks over. Firestar is core broken to smithereens by that Grumpig, and his only answer, Fortress, is getting completely destroyed by Corviknight. Fortress try to farm up to the Rock Tomb. Nighttime Clasher knows Air Cutter will not cut it, so he will go for the payback. But Firestar has other ideas. Firestar puts up the shield. Switch timer will be up momentarily, and there it is. In comes Diggersby, answered with the Grumpig, but this is all going according to plan. If Firestar wants any chance of Togekiss sweeping this endgame, he had to re-pivot the Diggersby to bait back out the Grumpig. He was also able to preserve that Fortress, and the Fortress does have quite a lot of energy. Diggersby farms up just shy of the back-to-back Dynamic Punches, I believe it's one short, so Firestar should be able to fire off the Scorching Sands. Firestar goes for the Scorching Sands right before Dynamic Punch is available. Nighttime Clasher still has 2 Protect Shields, and he is not going to use it here. He knows that he will survive, but the Grumpig is now very low. But the Diggersby has absolutely done its job. The Diggersby baited back out the Grumpig, it got it very low, and this can now set up farm for Togekiss. In comes Togekiss, trying to get the peck down. Nighttime Clasher pivots out and sends in his final Pokemon, which is Shadow Quagsire. Nighttime Clasher has opted for an interesting Quagsire moveset for this tournament. He is not running Stone Edge. Instead, he's running Aqua Tail plus Mud Bomb. This moveset helps Quagsire quite a bit in his neutral matchups, but means that it is now very poor against flyers like Togekiss. Aqua Tail is going to connect, but Aqua Tail will barely miss the 2-hit KO, because Bud Shot only does 1 damage to Togekiss in this matchup. Togekiss plays to the charge attack priority time, Aura Sphere is going to grab the final shield, and Firestar is going to be no shielding, because he knows that this will simply fail to take the knockout. Mudshot really not going to do much. Firestar pivots, sending in the Fortress. Nighttime Clasher tries for a catch on a Grumpig, but he's unsuccessful. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight going to get knocked out by the Rock Tomb, and somehow, against all odds, Firestar has found a way. Rock Tomb takes the knockout. In comes the Quagsire. Quagsire needs the double up that it's never going to get. And despite being ABA weak to the Grumpig, save switching Fortress, getting answered with its hardest counter at the Corviknight, Firestar claws his way back, and we've got a tied series. Unfortunately, the leads are not getting any easier for Firestar, as in game number 3, he leads Shadow Malamar into Bug-Bite Fortress. He safe switches into his own Fortress. Nighttime Clasher up a little bit of energy, farms up to the Rock Tomb, but baits with the Sand Tomb. Tough call to make for Firestar. Does he put up the shield? Yes, he does. He shields the bait, and now Nighttime Clasher is going to pivot into the Corviknight. The fact that Fortress is at -1 defense is going to nullify the -1 of attack that it applies with the Rock Tomb. This means Corviknight is still able to hit for its default amount of damage, and these sand attacks are shredding through the Fortress. Fortress unable to make the Rock Tomb before the payback is ready. Is Firestar willing to go down 2 shields? Yes, he is. Firestar really trying to make life as uncomfortable as possible for Nighttime Clasher. He saves energy, he repivots the Malamar. Malamar farming up a ton of energy, and gonna look to secure the knockout here with the foul play. But Nighttime Clasher has other ideas. He puts up the shield, he's saving the energy, he's sending back in the Fortress, and look at the Bug Bites go. Those Bug Bites are double super effective. Firestar will make the superpower. Nighttime Clasher puts up the shield. Superpower would have inflicted devastating damage, and Malamar gets fully farmed down. Now the reveal. Firestar has the Diggersby in the back, but Nighttime Clasher has a nasty surprise awaiting that Diggersby, as his final Pokemon is going to be Grumpig. In addition, he has so much energy stored on the Corviknight, so this really looks like Nighttime Clasher is going to be able to take this game number 3. Firestar will finally put an end to the Bug-Bite Fortress with the Fire Punch, but the damage is already done. In comes Grumpig, there's the pivot into the Fortress. Fortress, winning charge attack priority over the Corviknight, will be able to secure the knockout, but Grumpig is healthy enough that Grumpig will be able to take home the win. Fortress desperately trying to make it to the Sand Tomb, but Fortress is not known for its pacing, it's known for its damage. It just simply gets outpaced. Dynamic Punch will take the knockout. All that's left in the back is the Diggersby, and Diggersby can make a Scorching Sands, but Scorching Sands will simply fail to do enough damage to secure the knockout. So Nighttime Clasher, despite getting an incredibly good lead, this game ended up being very, very close, and that's been the story of this series. If you get a good lead, it doesn't mean you're winning an incredibly, incredibly close game, and Nighttime Clasher is 1 win away from being crowned champion. The battlers lock in for game number 4, and it's a dominant lead win for Firestar. Togekiss into Fortress. Nighttime Clasher safe switches into Corviknight. So Nighttime Clasher, again, really disrespecting both Togekiss and Diggersby with this line. His final Pokemon in the back is Grumpig. Firestar knows if he stays in here with the Togekiss, he will be able to win switch advantage, and then the Fortress is going to get a line onto the Diggersby endgame. So as long as Firestar is able to make a play for switch advantage, he should be in a pretty good spot. Nighttime Clasher does get the Air Cutter boost. That could complicate things just a little bit. The boosted Air Cutter will still fail to take the knockout, but suddenly Corviknight's damage feels quite a bit more threatening. The second Air Cutter is going to land. No boost comes through this time. Corviknight going to be hit with an Aura Sphere. This will come very, very close to securing the knockout. Aura Sphere is going to land. Corviknight survives. Corviknight makes the Air Cutter. And now Firestar is forced to give up a shield. However, he knows he has such favorable alignment in the back as long as he can make a play for alignment. So he's going to go for the full pack farm down. Corviknight unable to make another Air Cutter, and in comes Grumpig. Firestar farms up. He's able to reach the back-to-back Aura Spheres, but the question is, will the Psy Wave actually take the knockout here? And it will, so he's unable to get his second move. And now we can put Fortress on the Grumpig. Grumpig gonna stay in, unleash Dynamic Punch to get some critical damage, and then he's gonna look to pivot into his own Fortress. Dynamic Punch is gonna connect. There's the pivot into Fortress, answered with the Diggersby, and this is exactly what Firestar was aiming for. Diggersby has such a dominant matchup into Fortress, even with the ability to lower defense with Sand Tomb, it just really does not do much. Whereas the 5-4 pacing from Mudshot Diggersby is absolutely relentless. Sand Tomb comes out from the Fortress, instant no shield from the Diggersby, as Diggersby knows it is in such a commanding position. Diggersby gonna look to overfarm, building up to the Scorching Sands, going for another Fire Punch. Nighttime Clasher desperately trying to burn the Switch Timer. Fire Punch will be shielded. After his next charge attack, his Switch Timer will be up. Fire Punch is reached. Firestar overfarming. There's the catch attempt, as in comes Grumpig. Grumpig gonna be answered with the Bug Bite Fortress. Fortress fires off the Sand Tomb, and that's gonna deny Grumpig's ability to make Dynamic Punch. Sand Tomb will take the knockout, and with the Diggersby in the back having loaded energy, this game is over. Nighttime Clasher is gonna get the full farm down. Nighttime Clasher gonna go for the Rock Tomb. He's hoping that by lowering the attack of the Diggersby, he will be able to hang on and survive this Fire Punch. Otherwise, Fire Punch would be securing the knockout. So now he has to hope. Is this enough? Is a debuffed Fire Punch going to secure the knockout here? Fire Punch lands. It still takes the KO. And we're going to a winner-take-all game number 5. Here we go, the final game of the tournament, and it's a dominant lead win for Firestar. Fortress into Grumpig. Nighttime Clasher save switches into the Quagsire. Firestar gonna bank a ton of energy and then send out Togekiss. He knows that he will be able to survive 2 Aqua Tails in this matchup, so even giving a pretty significant energy head start, he still feels like he's in a pretty good spot here, because he's always going to be able to no shield too, and the Bug Bites that he's already done, the Pecks that are adding up, this Quagsire gets closer and closer to Aura Sphere range. Togekiss will finally launch energy. Shield comes out from Nighttime Clasher. He's going to look to try and make a play for a switch advantage. He has his Corviknight in the back, which is his only answer to the Bug Bite Fortress, so he is desperately hoping that he can try and make a play for switch. But if Firestar just matches shields, Firestar should be in a very convincing position, because Mudshot only does 1 hit point of damage to Togekiss here. So even as Mudshot after Mudshot lands onto the Togekiss, Togekiss never really gets any lower. Togekiss now going to be forced to burn its final Protect Shield here if he wants to make a play for switch advantage, and Firestar is going to go for just that. Could Nighttime Clasher try and go for a snipe here? He does! He sends in the Grumpig, and Grumpig will immediately be hit with the Aura Sphere. Nighttime Clasher has basically sacrificed Grumpig over to the Fortress, but he has preserved the Quagsire, and he's hoping that that is going to be a key to victory. In comes Fortress. Fortress will get shredded by Dynamic Punch, but importantly, Dynamic Punch will fail to take the knockout. So Firestar able to absorb that damage, no problem. He's going to commit to a full farm down, and he does get there. He exits with so much residual energy, and that is a huge problem for Nighttime Clasher. Nighttime Clasher can't afford to send in the Quagsire, because then he'll just get farmed down. He's forced to send in the Corviknight. But Corviknight is about to get double debuffed. It just simply cannot outpace the massive amount of energy that Fortress has. Fortress able to make that second Rock Tomb, and this is disastrous for Nighttime Clasher. Nighttime Clasher could potentially pivot out and reset the debuff, but in doing so, then he loses his ability to make a catch later in the game. So he's just gonna stay in, get a full farm down. Firestar sends in Empoleon, and this is a double debuffed payback. It's really not gonna do much. Firestar gonna have to watch for a switch from Nighttime Clasher. Nighttime Clasher farms up. Will he go for it? There it is. In comes the Quagsire, answered with the Togekiss. Togekiss snipes down, and Firestar knows he's won it. Empoleon has the Hydro Cannon loaded. That's gonna be enough to KO Corviknight and take the series. I want this video to be on a happier note, celebrating what an unbelievably good series that was from Firestar and from Nighttime Clasher as well. It's really fun to watch our game get played at the highest level between 2 of the best. Now, I did allude at the start, obviously the results of this tournament have been embroiled in a large degree of controversy. I've already made a video on my main channel very angry about what has happened, and I'm trying to keep the vibes up for this video because I want this video to celebrate what an unbelievable series it was. I'm hoping that the results obviously get looked at and they get adjusted so everyone ends up getting what they deserve, but for now, I'm just leaving it here. I'm honestly very sad that all of this controversy came out, and that's been the story that's dominated the Orlando Regionals, because there were some incredible games in this tournament, and This video, as I mentioned, I was planning on just scrapping it after everything that had happened, but Firestar mentioned that he wanted to have a more sliced video on these battles just to immortalize what an incredible run it was and how great of a grand finals it was. So obviously, as you guys know, I'm a very big Firestar supporter, and I hope that I was able to do his battles justice.